Defense. Defense. The number 2 ranked offensive efficiency team in all of college basketball has been number 1 for the vast majority of the season. That would be your Iowa Hawkeyes. Put together a defensive performance tonight, and it was the defense that won the game for Iowa. Wisconsin in this game scores just 9.05 points per possession. Iowa wasn't much better at 1.0000 points per possession. And Iowa, dog snoring very loud. You'll hear that all night. That's Ginger's contribution to the show. Iowa just 2 of 20 from 3-point range. Folks, I'm pretty sure that if I would have told you before the game began that Iowa was going to be 2 of 20 from 3-point range, we all would have thrown our hats collectively on the floor at best and said, crap, Iowa bows out early in the Big Ten tournament again. But because of the defense, Iowa emerges victorious 62-57 against the team I dislike watching play basketball more than any other team in the sport, the Wisconsin Badgers. Mark, I hate watching Wisconsin play. Well, take Iowa out of the mix. I don't like watching them play basketball. Never have. Never did under Bo Ryan. Didn't under Bennett. It's just not my kind of game. And having to watch Iowa play Wisconsin 3 times in the last 3 weeks has been like stab my eyes out. But there's been some intensity. Got to admit, there's been some intensity to it.
Love the way Iowa played tonight. I love the way they responded. It was it could have been, they could have choked so many times. I mean, when you're shooting 2 of 20 from the arc, John, 2 of 20, that's 10%. I'm bad at math. That's 10%. I liked how, like Bohannon, he could, he had 11 points, 3 of 9 shooting, 1 of 6 from the arc. He could have freaked out a little bit. He could have pressed. I love the veteran sort of overall veteranness.
Yeah.
Nobody freaks out. Nobody. And since they won, I put on the Yarn and Beer Can hat. Bought outside of Lambeau Field. A little taunt to Wisconsin. But the shooting got me. Some of the defensive breakdowns in the first half totally cleaned up in the second half. And
Good point.
Wisconsin's horrible. Wisconsin just doesn't have very much offense. And so I thought maybe they would try to run Garza in this game because they have not. I would love to see Garza's numbers against the Badgers in all 3 games this year. I'll bet they're astronomical. They've had they could not stop him in any of the three games that we saw. Just a really, I would say, if they lose tomorrow, Illinois is a great team, but man, this getting the double bye and then getting to the semifinal, these are really important steps for McCaffrey for the program.
They are very well said, Mark. And yeah, we'll talk about the Illinois-Iowa matchup before we get out of here tonight. Let's look at the stat sheet real quick here. You talked about Bohannon, 11 points, 1 of 6 from 3. It wasn't there. Iowa 2 of 20 as a team wasn't there, but Bohannon finds a way. The blow-by layup late, the 4 free throws late, the 3-pointer that lifted the lid, barely, if you want to call that a lid lifter. But, Mark, the stat that jumps out to me is this one right here. 10 blocks for Iowa, 10 blocks. I'm sure Matt Weitzel and the Iowa Sports Information staff will have a note after the game as to when the last time Iowa had 10 blocks, but it's probably been a minute. And just the overall grittiness of this team. Look at Wisconsin's stats. Go to the split box quick here. 39%. They were 7 of 7. Mark, if Iowa was 6 of 20 from 3-point range, and that's only 30%. if they're 6 of 20 from 3-point range. They win the game by 15 points. They had their worst 3-point shooting game of the year. Maybe their I can't remember what they were against Gonzaga, like 4 of 22 or something. It was one of the worst. And they still find a way to win because the continuation of the changes they made on defense about a month and a week ago. And this is not a game that Fran McCaffrey's Iowa Hawkeyes typically win when they shoot like that, but defense led the way.
When did this team put on that gritty hat? Just put on its coveralls, gets a little mud and blood on their coveralls, and it's just usually Wisconsin's putting on the defense, and Iowa.
Right.
I think what we're seeing here is the revelation that defense matters, and maybe I'm not saying that they weren't playing good defense in previous years, but the emphasis, just the footing that they have on defense now, to me, really has made them a much more lethal team in these type of gritty tournament games that you might end up in a football stadium.
Right. Look at this right here. The game has been posted. Iowa seems like it should be posted. Yeah, it's posted. Iowa went from 64th in the nation in defense before the game to 51st. Never thought I would see this year. 60 was kind of the mark I thought would be their best opportunity. But they're at 51 right now. And look at this number right here. Opposing defenses. This is basically the average adjusted defensive efficiency of opposing defenses for the entirety of their schedule. This means that Iowa has played the 8th toughest schedule relative to the opposition's collective defense of any team in the country, and they still have the second most efficient offense in the sport, despite having played against that murderer's row of defensive teams. And now their own defense is at 51st. I think they're getting up there close to, was it 2014 Michigan? We go to the Big Ten here. I think it was 2014 Michigan. Yeah, Michigan won the Big Ten that year. Well, no, they were at 89, so maybe it was 2016 Indiana. They were at 59. So looking a lot like 2016 Indiana, and this is something I talked about before the season. I felt that if Iowa could get into that top 60 defensive role or top 70, they had a chance to be a lot like that 2016 Indiana team that was number 1 in the nation in effective field goal percentage. That was number 4 in the nation in 3-point percentage. Iowa was number 4 in the nation coming into this. And that Indiana team, they made it to the Sweet 16. So that's kind of that was the analog that I was looking at before the season. And Iowa statistics are getting in line. Doesn't mean anything. But what it means is, Marc, you hit on it. When did they become gritty? I felt that last year's team was the most mentally tough team of the McCaffrey era. And they've carried that over from last year into this year. And it's just been a joy to watch.
I think there's something to that, John. I think the mental toughness, that's born out of most defense teams that have to count defense as a strength. I'm trying to gauge now, where was Iowa last year in that defensive adjusted number? Is there, and how much can we drain out of that as far as
97th?
Yeah, I'm going to say the improvement is nothing short of astounding.
Yeah, it is.
That's really the difference. I think you can make a case that that's carried Iowa through this tough stretch, and maybe where it can go. Right.
There's this Bart Torvik's website that I only found a few weeks ago, which I wish I would have known about this a lot longer. So since February the 5th, and I don't know if Iowa's statistics for tonight are on there, but since February 5th, Iowa was 10th in the country. Iowa, before this game, Iowa has had the 10th best defense of any team in the sport, 354 of them, since February 5th. That ranking's probably going to go up to 7, 8, 6 after this. So it's not a fluke. Iowa has won, I think, 9 of their last 10 or 8 of their last 9 games so far putting an end to this. And Mark, you and I talked about this the last time we spoke on Sunday, that we felt even if Iowa would lose to Wisconsin, and we assumed they'd play Wisconsin, it was probably either going to be Wisconsin or Penn State, that they were still going to be a 2 seed, that Iowa was likely a 2 seed, but this absolutely slams the door. Iowa is a 2 seed at worst. Ohio State, very likely, in my opinion, going to lose to Michigan tomorrow. I also think if you put a gun to my head right now, I'm picking Illinois to beat Iowa. So Ohio State and Iowa, if they both lose those games, Iowa remains ahead of Ohio State on the seed line. And Iowa very likely, unless some crazy things happen in the Big Ten, Iowa very likely will be the 2 seed in Baylor's number 1 seed bracket. And Baylor lost today to Oklahoma State.
I was criticized on Twitter tonight for not knowing anything about basketball. On the first podcast we had, I said, "Hey guys, Oklahoma State is pretty good."
Yeah,
and so I know you're right.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny though is that podcast we talked about, and you threw Oklahoma State out. I mentally cringed, and then I went and looked at the Ken Palm. I'm like, well, hell, Oklahoma State wasn't even really on my radar, despite the best player in the country. But relative as a team, I'm like, Marc pulled a really good one right there.
I dig Oklahoma State. I dig a Big 12 style basketball. You don't have the hook and holds. And hey, tonight was a clean basketball game, well called. Davison, they had Hannibal they had his hat on and his straight jacket on. He wasn't going to eat anybody's liver. It was all good. But yeah, the defense really showed up. And I like that it's a muscle now for Iowa. It's not just a thing that they had to get through. It's just not the thing that we don't like to talk about defense. And part of that is this Garza. I mean, Garza he set the pace tonight in so many ways, and Wisconsin hammers on him, but he hammered on them. Yeah. He is so relentless, and there's such a presence that the Badgers they have nothing. He was 10 of 15 tonight, 24 points. 4 blocks, 9 rebounds. That's a hell of a stat sheet. Garza you could tell he sort of enjoyed beating Wisconsin the first 2 times. I think he goes out. He's a Badgers owner. Like I'm a Packers owner. He's going out as a senior. He owns the Badgers.
Yeah, he does. 24 points. And as Scott Dochterman tweeted out before the game, that if Garza scored 24 in this game, he would ascend up to 8th all-time by himself in the Big Ten history relative to points scored. That's exactly the number that he got. Luka Garza, the 8th most points ever scored by a Big Ten player, and I believe the only forward on the list. I mean, Glenn Rice was big as a forward, but he was a guard. Rick Mount of Purdue, and Garza, the only true center anywhere on the list. He is the most prolific scoring center in the history of the Big Ten Conference. And I can't believe that I'm saying that, and I can't believe that guy played for Iowa and that we all got to watch it. And there were several points in this game. Marc had a buddy tweet me during the game, and what he tweeted me, I was starting to type to tweet, and I just couldn't come up with anything. So I didn't tweet anything in my old age. I'm actually getting better at that. And I wanted to tweet something out like, I'm catching myself just being stupefied and also realizing how the door is closing on the Garza era, that I'm not going to get an opportunity to see the type of effort that he gives on every inch of that court, how reliable he is, the greatest slump buster in Iowa history. Just get it into Garza if you're on a field goal drought. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where I feel like what I'm witnessing, I'm never going to see again this side of the dirt nap. That's what I think when I watch Luka Garza play, that I'm never going to see that again.
You hope. Well, you look at the Iowa women with Gustafson, and then you
Right.
had, and I'm going to say this lady's name wrong, Cinzano,
Yeah.
38 the other night. Obviously, Caitlin Clark, and
Yeah.
the other girl had, I don't know, 27.
Yeah.
They have been fun to watch, by the
They've been
way.
really,
They just throw the ball at the basket and it goes in. It's amazing. But so we had a few comments talking about Murray's game tonight.
Mm-hmm.
What a plus! I think Murray just kind of feeling it, along with the defense coming along. And Murray, you look at Murray's game, complete game, John. I mean, he can shoot, he can rebound. He had what, maybe two blocks tonight. I think I can't really see
Three.
in
He
the
had three.
block.
Yep.
3 blocks, 5 rebounds, 6 points in a good night where every point mattered. I think the defense, along with Murray's confidence, I don't know if he's ever been not confident, but man, his confidence is really shining through. This was it wasn't a great bench game, but it was a good bench game. Bench held, I thought. CJ Frederick, 32 minutes. Didn't hit a lot of points. He looked a little bit out of place at times and trying to do some maybe stuff he shouldn't have been doing on offense.
Good
But
defense.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
You got him healthy and he looks good. Let him stretch his legs. Especially I can say that when you do have Garza cleaning up all the messes.
And what about 35 minutes from Joe Wieskamp, who 5 days ago we were unsure if he was going to play? And did he look his best? No. But late, when Iowa was in crunch time, Joe Wieskamp was as big as anyone with 2 mid-range shots that he hit, and then that sensational block that he had. I mean, Joe was big. 38 minutes for Luka Garza. And Fran is doing a masterful job of stretching out hidden minutes to get Garza breaks. He brings him out just in advance of the TV timeout. And then sometimes he'll leave him out for another minute or so after you come back from the TV timeout. And that's just really good game management by Fran McCaffrey. Anyhow, well, we've yapped a lot. And this is always the fun part of the show to, turn things over to you guys and let you play a big part of it. You need, if Marc hears the hands.
Let's go. Sorry, that was my last. It was down to backwash. So
Yeah, that's funny. Dave Laughlin says, loved watching pissed off Bohannon in the second half. His defense on Trice was phenomenal. I would say this. Trice certainly scored on a lot of different people in this game. Trice himself was 8 of 17. He had 19 points. It sure seemed like he had a lot more than that. But as we all saw, Wisconsin was held over 9 minutes from about the 9-minute and 30-second mark until about the 9-minute and until about the 15-second mark. The Badgers went over 9 minutes without a field goal. Over 9 minutes until Trice hit that 3-pointer there to bring the Badgers back to within 3. You're right. Bohannon did put in the effort. And I thought Trice, I figured he would have had 26, 27 points, but he only had 19. So, yeah.
Joe T also had really important minutes tonight. I really love
4 games in a row.
Toussaint is coming into his own. I mean, he's had leadership aura tonight. You felt good with him out there. He did he had the skates on one play, but for the most part, he cleaned it up and calm, found his way in the lane, didn't panic with the ball. He just seems like a much more confident player. I'm starting to wonder if there was some sort of, I don't want to, I wonder this way because I think okay, this is the question I would have asked at some point, maybe hopefully before this game tonight, but I have to think there was some sort of sit down with Joe, some sort of refocusing. And man, ever since then, the minutes have been clean, and that's it doesn't look like much in the box score, but it advances Iowa's cause, and it all counts.
You're exactly right. He's trending in nearly every level better than where he was these last 4 games since the Ohio State game. And we talked about it at that point in time. We talked about how if Joe can keep ascending, not blossom into a superstar overnight, but if he could just keep ascending, how much better this team is going to be. I don't know that I've ever seen a player struggle to keep his feet and slide as much as Joe Toussaint does, because he hits Tasmanian devil speed like that, and you can't stop. But his defense, the pass that he had to Luka in the first half, the bounce pass, was a thing of absolute beauty. So you're right. Joe Toussaint playing some really good minutes. Patrick playing some really good minutes tonight too. And Patrick had a pair of blocks in just 13 minutes. He's going to get stronger to finish, but he had one very key putback. Tony Busan says, leadership aplenty, grinding out a win, finding a way in spite of what would have been terminal shooting in the past, mature team, finishing games, hitting free throws when everything's on the line. Yeah, check.
Exactly.
That's why this might be the best team since the 86-87 team. That 87 good.
We want to kind of blow through beating Wisconsin for the third time, but I don't think you can do that, because Wisconsin, I think, in my opinion, has been a huge pain in the ass for Iowa basketball. Not only the games, just where Wisconsin has been. I mean, yes, it's like Iowa and Wisconsin, they share, geography.
Right.
But Wisconsin's been to a few better places than Iowa in basketball and football. But in football, it feels like it's maybe caught up. Basketball, I'm not saying anything's caught up or anything like that, but 3 in a row, that's a trophy. I mean, okay, you have things you're collecting now this season. You're talking about John checking boxes, beating Wisconsin 3 times.
Yeah.
Getting the double bye, getting to the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament. Things are happening. Be excited. Be angry or be nervous when I tweet out concert and without the F with a minute left, and I forgot about Trice and the threes. Thought I would have to eat that one. Thankfully, I didn't. But everyone's hanging on every seat now, on their seats now, and it's rarefied air here, John. This is I hate to say it, but rarefied air.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. To 2006 since I was been here.
I don't know that Michigan beats Wisconsin 3 times this year. I think Illinois could. I don't know any other Big Ten team that does, other than maybe Iowa and Illinois. And you're right. It is a feat, because Wisconsin just funks you up when you play them. And to beat them 3 times, especially beat them twice in a span of 5 days, you're right. Don't want to overlook that. Dave Laughlin adds that Garza's defense on the perimeter looked better in the second half. It looked better after the first 4 minutes. I tweeted out in the first 4 minutes in the second half that Iowa's man-to-man defense was looking a lot like it looked prior to the Ohio State game, which was bad, because Garza's out there hedging high, and I can't stand that. He is slow of foot laterally. His quickness, he does not have quick twitch. That is not in Luka's game. He's not a quick twitch guy. Don't have him hedging high, because but they made some adjustments. They kept hedging him high, but they were sending a guard down the backside to clog the lane for the cutter. And that's what they made. Again, these small little adjustments that you make.
There was a good question from Brian Ulrich. When did Wisconsin stop posting their guards on the block? It was a big part of their program. Is that a guard thing, John? It feels like to me Wisconsin is inverted there, and their guards are all hanging out at the arc, and they're letting Micah Potter do pretty much most of the work down low.
Yeah, with Potter and Reavers, they've got a couple of good guys, but you're right. That was a staple in the past. And with Davison, I don't know why they don't do that more, because as much as I don't really care to watch him, and there were didn't see any chicanery really all night from him. That's great to see. That is something. I mean, Iowa did it with Wieskamp late. Weezy had a mouse in the house. Connor recognized it, fed him, and he scored back-to-back baskets. And Wieskamp's a 6'5", 6'6" guy. Maybe it's a personnel issue. Maybe none of those guys are comfortable with it. But you're right. That is something that they've done a lot in the past. And remember, Mark, you can click on these people's comments and bring them right on up.
I just realized that. Here's a good one. I'm gonna pitch this one to you.
There you go.
Chris, Mark, can you mass produce that hat and make an old style official victory hat of the Iowa Hawkeyes? We do have a beer sponsor, and I'm not good with, I believe this is macrame. I don't know. I'm not good with that. But if we can find somebody, I'll pony up some cash for some black and gold yarn. I guess it's yarn.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll fire up some Barntown, Iowa style yarn and beer can hats for sure.
That's right. Yeah. The Barntown, that is Barntown Brewing in West Des Moines, and they can be found at several locations around the state, and you'll be hearing more and more about Barntown as we continue to move on the weeks and months to come, and really appreciate their support of HawkeyePodcast.com. Dan McCall says, is Murray the best freshman in the Fran era? Whew. Yeah, I'd have to go back and think about that. You know, you had Gasell and Woodbury, so I think he's better than they are. Wieskamp was really good as a freshman. Garza was really good as a freshman as well. So I would say, to me, I would put him on the same level of Wieskamp in my mind as guys that I see having the biggest upside. I mean, before Garza played as a freshman, I said and tweeted, and I can still go find the tweet, and I tweet a lot of dumb things too, and I try to let you know when I do, that Garza would be the best scoring center that Iowa's had since at least Michael Payne back in like 81.
Whoa, there's a reference from way back.
There's an old man reference, right? And he outscored Guy Rucker as a freshman as well. But Wieskamp, I thought, had more upside. So Murray is in the conversation. He's on the team, if you will. But I think Wieskamp probably would get my vote. Yes, we talked about Garza, 8th all time. Keegan Murray improving very fast. Several Keegan Murray related comments. Going to be fun to watch in several years. Mark, you're bringing one up here.
Here's one from Zach. Iowa in the second half, 12 assists, no turnovers, 6 blocks. 4-7 turnovers. Held without a field goal for 9 minutes. How do you survive 2 of 20? That's how you survive a 2 of 20 3-point shooting night.
Zach, great observations. Sorry, I was interrupting your flow, Mark.
No, go ahead. I was totally just reading the thing.
I was oohing and eyeing. You know, I wasn't even making any sound. I was cavemaning over here because I had no idea that Iowa had 0 turnovers in the second half and 12 assists. That is a fantastic stat dig. Well done, Zach. Wow. Yeah, that is how you overcome shooting 2 of 20 from 3. And for this Iowa team all year long, tell me before the season, Iowa's going to shoot 2 of 20 against a team that's ranked in the top 35 in KenPom. I'm like, that's a loss because their defense isn't going to be good enough. Well, Iowa has flipped that script. So that is a fantastic observation. Really appreciate that. This is sorry if you just pulled something up.
Let him rip.
Okay. Rob Best brings this up. Shooting in a football stadium will improve tomorrow. Defense wins championships. I've never shot in a football stadium, and other teams are shooting in football stadiums too. And Wisconsin was like 7 of 17 or something like that. But I can't imagine that is the most favorable shooting environment to be in. And I hope that next week when Iowa is in the tournament somewhere in Indianapolis, their games are at Hinkle or at the Pacers Arena and not in this cavernous football stadium.
But to play devil's advocate there, I mean, you do kind of have the dome buster in Garza. His game is recession proof, in my opinion.
Okay. I like it.
I mean,
you're saying it's the same for the other team too, and you have a better zone buster than the other guy has. Yes.
15. He's taking his shots. He's shooting in the lane. I don't know what he was from 3-pointer tonight. 2, that
Right.
wasn't a big a deal. So I think he kind of takes a little of the dome out of the dome for Iowa.
Yeah, no, you might be right. And we had just talked about Barntown, and speaking about Barntown, let's go ahead and hear from our friends.
Iowans know a thing or two about a hard day's work. That's why we do things the right way at Barntown Brewing. Grain-to-glass beers brewed in-house. Scratch-made food, handcrafted with fresh, locally sourced ingredients. We work hard for the reward of watching our guests enjoy great food and beer. Barntown Brewing. West Des Moines, Waukee.
Zach B saying, Mark, did you want to say something real quick? I saw your hand up.
No, I saw let's see this tweet here.
Okay.
Brian, he wants to pull up Dave. We are not at the post games. David is. I don't know if David is. I think everyone who all media who wanted to go to the Indy ended up being able to go.
Isn't that's interesting? That is not how it was in past years, but of course this is not past years.
COVID, and that's all it is. And I don't think media was able to travel as freely as it wanted to road games this year, but I'm not 100% on that. We're not getting those in the post game. What you guys bring us here, please do. Fantastic. It's we wouldn't the guard stuff without you guys bringing that. So I have to train myself to listen to. Well, first off, I got to pay for the Iowa All Access thing, which rarely works, John. Yes. But I have to pay for it, and I will. And so we do hear the post game, or at least can have access to it.
Right.
But yeah, Brian, please, you bring that to us. Tell us what happened, because we can certainly discuss it. Right. Or tell us what we said.
Right. Oh, and you also have the ability in the chat to send us a link, I think, unless I turn it off. I apologize. So David Eichholt said this on Twitter at 10:38 p.m., which is about 20 minutes ago. Wow, Jordan Bohannon opening up his press conference by pointing out the Big Ten's double standard when it comes to the treatment of Fran McCaffrey. Points to Greg Gard's rant this weekend, really, against officials, and Juwan Howard's ejection today. Says Fran has been treated very unfairly by the public. J-Bo coming out.
John, I'm going to give that a damn. That's a damn.
Right.
So this is what I'm talking about with Jordan Bohannon. He brings it. He doesn't give a shit. He's bringing it.
Right.
That's fantastic, and good for Jordan for bringing that up. Everyone who tweeted at me this week, well, if that's McCaffrey after Gard's thing last week, and I wrote about it, basically he's full of crap. The Big Ten really should look into Brad Davison. They really should. That was a lot of gaslighting from him last week. Good for Bohannon doing that. That's you don't see that in football. You don't see now. Kirk is a different deal than Fran. I mean, I don't think Kirk's ever been rung up, John. I don't think
so. No, I think it's come close.
He's talked about officials once that I can remember. It was Purdue the Julius Brents game with the crappy holding and the horrible pass interference at the end.
Yeah. They're not going to find Bohannon, and they're not going to suspend Bohannon. So good for Bohannon.
They didn't say a damn thing about Gard's rant.
And they didn't.
Let it rip. The Big Ten is telling you right now, you can hook and hold, you can foul, you can cuss out the refs in your post game. Let's rock.
Let it rock. The Big Ten Network stats guy tweeted this out. Luka Garza is the first big player ever in history, one of just 3 Division I players in the last 10 seasons, and the only power conference athlete in the last 10 years to post at least 2,000 points, 900 rebounds, 100 assists, 100 blocks, and 100 threes for a career. And I'm just that kind of stat guy that really gets excited about things like that, maybe more than I should.
The Big Ten stat guy account is terrific. Those guys usually come up with something like Matt Benson 6 is the Iowa guy you need to be following.
The best.
For really cool. He used to work at StatsInc. I think he saved all the files. Follow Matt. Follow Matt. He'll pull out good stuff for you. Seriously.
Yeah, those of you that have been following me on the Patreon account since football season, you know how many times I've mentioned at mbenson6 that you need to follow. It's a must follow. Several people have put up in the chat, and I don't know if this is true or not. Isaiah Livers out with a broken foot tomorrow. Anyone else hearing that? I don't know
think
that.
I've seen a few. It's come up here a couple people. I didn't see that either.
That is a Michigan guard, and if they would lose him, that would be a 1 seed in name only type of situation. Not saying it's anything like Cincinnati losing. Oh gosh, who is that just dominant player from Cincinnati back in the early 2000s, maybe even the 90s? Can't remember, but he got hurt right before the end of the season. They still gave him the number 1 seed, and they went and bowed out. His name started with a C. I can't remember. Anyway, doesn't matter. Thank you for sharing such things. Really appreciate all of that.
Definitely. If those guys are tweeting stuff out of post game, it's not. Please share it here.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not like exclusive stuff. No one's fighting about scoops or, when Spencer Lee's gonna, what he's gonna do with his 2 final years, which of course he was gonna wrestle. Kenyon Martin. Thank you.
Kenyon Martin, yes, thank you. Yes, Kmart. See, it's I can't believe I don't remember that. I usually can't remember the things that happened 2 years ago. And you know what? By the way, I know we're on Central Time. You're on Central Time, but in the East Coast, Mark, it's your birthday right now. So happy birthday to you.
Yeah, well, thank you, man. Yeah. And yours is tomorrow?
Sunday.
Or Sunday. That's right.
I'm 1 day after you. Yes.
That is weird, people.
Yeah, that is very weird.
John, here's one. I don't know. I like Chris Hassel. I just think he's a critical fan, and there's that true fan, critical fan debate that constantly goes on that makes it's nails on the chalkboard to me at this point. Connor going after Chris Hassel less than 30 minutes after the game. I'm here for it. I was just thinking how Connor hadn't done that in a while, and how maybe that's a good thing. But hey, they're putting on all the grit tonight. Right. They're putting on the foil. They're taking out they're settling all family business tonight, John.
If there was a headline for this game, Mark, you just found it. Hawks put on the foil, drop Badgers 3rd time of the season. That's fantastic. Putting on the foil is great. And I'd love myself to go read what Connor was saying to Chris Hassel, but unfortunately I can't see it either, because Connor has blocked me, not only when I was at Hawkeye Nation, but when I came back as at Hawkeye Podcast. Just a preemptive block by Connor of me. And like I said before, I'm totally fine with it, because I was the guy that said I didn't think Connor McCaffrey is a Big Ten point guard. And I've been critical of his offensive shooting and things like that. So by all means, I'm all for it. I mean, if that gives you a little extra juice,
absolutely.
Block away.
Yep. I don't know who's all blocked me. I don't really care, but I don't know why they would me. But hey, maybe, who knows? Hey, whatever works. If you could take. And here's the thing with media and sports. If you could use that a little bit, you should, because that's what media is there for. Use it. Why not?
Yeah. Our friend Scott Docterman of The Athletic tweeted at you and me that the final polar bear iceberg standings of the year are now in. Iowa is 7-0. Wisconsin is 1-4, and Michigan State is 0-4. So that is something.
That's an ass kicking, and that's significant, I think, because those are, if you're fighting with Wisconsin and Michigan State in basketball and football, you're fighting for good area.
Yeah,
you're fighting for good land.
Yeah,
important stuff.
You are right about that. You know what? Here's something that I want to do. This is now may not be the best time. Or maybe it's something do you think we should do this now, or maybe we should wait during the middle of the week?
Yeah, let it rip.
I wrote 1,300 words on this week relative to the Roy Marble and Dev Marble thing that popped up last week relative to the announcement of Luka Garza having his jersey retired. and Dev Marble tweeting something to the effect of, "I'm never going to watch Iowa play another game on television again." Basically he was saying he disassociates himself with the university because they felt that his father was treated disrespectfully. Mark and I did talk about that on the video and podcast from the Sunday Wisconsin game. And I understand Dev being irritated because I don't know how you retire BJ Armstrong's jersey.
Yeah.
And not Roy's. There's only one reason why you don't retire Roy's, and that's for the off the court things that Roy got into in his life. Roy Marble's rookie season as a member of the Atlanta Hawks. He was a first-round draft pick by the Hawks, the 23rd overall pick. BJ was the 18th overall pick in 1989 by the Chicago Bulls. In February of Roy Marble's rookie season, he tested positive for drugs and was suspended for the remainder of the season. Then the next couple of years went to the CBA, the Continental Basketball Association, which was kind of a precursor to what the G League is right now. And Roy really never had anything more than a cup of coffee in the NBA after that. And then there was, of course, the 90s and 2000s, and there were some arrests that really happened just a year prior to Roy's celebration on the court in March of 2015 that was ham-fistedly handled by Gary Barta. Mark and I talked about that on Sunday. So I understand why Dev is irritated. But to me, if we're going to have jersey retirements, I think Iowa needs to have a clearly defined criteria. Mark, just like for football players' pictures to hang in the halls of the football complex, they have to be what?
Consensus All-American.
Consensus All-American. Okay. I think consensus All-American is probably the way to be for basketball as well. And Iowa, prior to Luka Garza, had 9 jersey numbers retired. 9. 5 of them were retired after the 1956 season.
Which I dig. Crazy, but I dig it. I dig it because you know that they were super excited and
yes,
they wanted to honor those guys. But in retrospect,
in 2021, Larry David, but in 1956, they had just gone to back-to-back Final Fours.
Right.
So if I put myself in a 1956 Hawkeye fan hat, I'm like, of course I want the Fabulous Five to be honored. They started together every year from their sophomore, junior, and senior seasons, and they went to back-to-back Final Fours when really only 1 or 2 of those players would have even been in any type of consideration for any jersey retirement, and I don't know that any of them would have been retired. Another thing is Jared Utoff, prior to Luka Garza, is the most decorated Iowa basketball player in 60-some years. He was a consensus All-American, not first team, but second or third team. That qualifies as a consensus All-American. So I think that Iowa needs to have a clearly defined set of criteria and make that set of criteria public. And if you want to have some type of citizenship aspect to it as well, that's your prerogative. It's your school. I think it probably would be a good idea to maybe wait 5 or 6 years or some type of length of time after guys are done with their careers. Maybe not. That's debatable. But more importantly, Mark, I think have a set of criteria that everyone's aware of.
I would agree with that. It's hard. What's happened has happened, and it's hard to take some jerseys off the wall and put them back in circulation. But yes, bring it. You don't have to bring it to a head anymore. Criteria, I'm all for that. What they should be, it should be hard. It should be hard to get on a Wall of Fame. It should be the Kinnick Wall of Fame might be a little too hard, but I like that it's hard to get to become a major have a jersey retired. But one aspect of this, John, I'd like to talk about, and this is me kind of speculating a little bit, is what do you think when McCaffrey saw that tweet by Devin Marble, a player that he knows and loves? I mean, the one thing about Fran, when Rick Brown at the Des Moines Register retired, he said of Rick always had the players' backs, and that makes Rick, aces in my book, which is great. That's awesome. That's kind of what you want. So I think McCaffrey's it's not just talk. He really bonds with his guys. You saw the announcer on Fox, I'm blanking on his Doug Gottlieb, have his
Right.
thread on Twitter this week. So I'm trying to think, McCaffrey reads Devin Marble's tweet. I'll bet it breaks his heart. I'll bet he's on the phone right away with Devin Marble. And then I'll bet his ass is going over to Gary Bartas and saying, Gary, we need a do-over here. And you got any ideas? Or we're going to do this. I'm going to guess McCaffrey drove the bus on the ensuing press conference. I'm not trying to paint Barta as a bad guy here at all. The Roy Marble problem went over 3 athletic administrations at Iowa. Problem. I don't mean it that way. I mean,
I get
the situation, problematic. That went over 3 administrations in Iowa. It was nobody did well on that. But I'm going to commend McCaffrey for going right to his guy and at least trying to make sure that it didn't bleed anymore publicly. And that was a good thing. If McCaffrey, and I'm guessing he was behind that, I'm guessing that's a master stroke, and that's kind of why you might see good recruiting for a long, long time, because McCaffrey does really seem to have his guys. I think I wrote today, you open it up you open up his contract, you get the Sweet 16, because that's it's been since 1999. But I really think you're not going to fire McCaffrey because he's mad at an official, or he calls an official a cheating MF. You're not going to fire him for that. You're going to fire him for doing bad things to players, and there's been none of that. So kudos to him for doing that. I think it was a big deal. The Iowa PR machine on Varda's end don't work very well. And I imagine that cutting through that for McCaffrey was a bit of a pain in the ass.
No, I agree with everything that you said. And I think that Fran absolutely picked up the phone right away. And at the time last week when he was asked about it at his press conference, he'd yet to talk with Dev. But you know what's going to happen. Fran saying Dev knows that I love him. And, I in that piece, I also that I did when I wrote about the, Dev and Fran, I looked, it was a different piece. I actually looked at the transfers of the Fran McCaffrey era, but it was due to the discussion, and everything that I find is there's 4 transfers out that were grad transfers. Isaiah Moss was a grad transfer. Cordell Pemsel was a grad transfer. There were several of them. There were no Jeff Petersons. There were no Jake Kellys. There were no Tyler Smiths. There were no starters who were like made men, with the exception of Isaiah Moss, but he was also a grad transfer, wanted to play in the NCAA tournament, got a scholarship to Kansas, and then COVID, ripped that out from under him. There was none of that. And to me, seeing that evidence, I think Fran's a player's coach. I think they all love him. And if the players love him, it's good enough for me.
I want to get this one in from Torque. Yes, he's named after the former Hawkeye. I also like Doc's idea of creating a Ring of Honor with a 20-player charter class, including Roy and Dev. Yeah, the Barta not lifting a finger on the
wall of honor.
Yeah, that's not good. But nobody was really keeping track either. I mean, no one called them out on it. So I think make this a big deal. You have a chance to set history now. Don't screw it up. I think a good round, 20 to 25 players. I don't know who, John, you'd put it to vote with, or how you. I don't know what the criteria would be. I'll let you take care of that post. But I do think do it right. To steal Barta's phrase, do this well. Do this right, well, good, whatever the hell word you want to use. Make it a big deal and do it ASAP.
Yeah, I mean, is it Chuck Darling, Murray Weir, those guys certainly, and Roy, and then others. But yeah, we can think about some criteria. This comes from McD. Nice to have a showcase game with 2 Player of the Year candidates on CBS tomorrow. And we say tomorrow because we're recording this on Friday, March the 12th. By the time you listen to this, if you're listening to the podcast version, it's probably Saturday, the 13th. And it feels like home again since the late 80s. Iowa has had more CBS games this year, Mark, probably since the 80s. It has felt like it smelled like the 80s this year with this basketball team in many ways. So it's been a lot of fun.
John, does the CBS broadcaster, they still kind of hold that cachet? Because when I first started my gig with football, 2:30 was the coolest thing you could have. Now it's night games for sure. You guys all love them, and I, as a newspaper deadline person, they were really easy stories to write. You guys just follow the bouncing ball, yada yada yada. Boom, there. You weren't sending that one home to your mom via snail mail. Not a big deal. Night games are a big thing now. CBS is still the Cadillac for basketball broadcasts.
Okay, so this I think this is subjective. Okay, I'm gonna be 50 on Sunday. I grew up in the 80s watching Iowa basketball. You grew up a similar time frame than I did, just a couple of years ahead of me. That that was before So I think to people of our era, to our generation, yes, I think that still has cachet, but it might have more cachet to people in a certain age demographic because of nostalgia. So I don't know if it floats the young kids' boats the way that it did, the way that it does mine. I don't know. I can't speak for them.
Gus is a pretty big draw. Whatever broadcast he's doing, Fox, wherever. I kind of, this week you talk about TV theme songs. ESPN's hockey theme is coming back, and I'm a little excited for that.
Yeah, the nostalgia is like they're playing to us. It's like when I was a kid, I hated the movie The Big Chill. It's like everywhere, Big Chill, Big Chill, Big Chill.
You were right to hate that.
But all the old people that I thought were old then, they loved it. Yeah. Now, here we are getting excited about little music from our childhood. Well, it's nostalgia. Nostalgia sells.
It does. I agree.
Nostalgia sells. Coach Fran said, this is from Chad Hayes. Coach Fran said Joe Wieskamp felt good. 35 minutes for Wieskamp. We'll have to see in the morning. Said if Joe looks slow or not himself, he will sit him till next week. So if Joe doesn't look like himself tomorrow, they'll sit him. And I think that's the smart decision. Several people are in here asking, what's the key to beating Illinois?
They also asked what's on the plate for Iowa tomorrow against Illinois. Let's hit that too.
Yeah, what's on the plate is the Illinois team. Again, folks, let me give you a couple of misses. I said Connor wasn't a Big Ten guard. I said Bohannon wasn't a Big Ten guard. Okay, all right. I said that if Iowa loses the Northwestern game, that's one of the biggest games in program history this year, and Kirk could lose the locker room. Okay, wrong. So I'm giving you 3 wrongs because I'm about to tell you how I was right. And that is, before the season began, I said unpopularly on the Hawkeye podcast at the Patreon at that time that Illinois was my pick to win the Big Ten, and I thought Illinois was the best team that could make the Final Four from the Big Ten. And I felt that Illinois could cut down the nets and maybe be the best team in college basketball. They are playing like it. They have won 11 of 12.
They look great today, man.
They looked phenomenal today. They housed Michigan at Michigan less than 10 days ago without Io even playing. And they are the best perimeter defensive team Iowa will play all year. Yes, Iowa lost that game earlier in Champaign. I think it was 85-81.
Great game.
Very good game. That felt big time. All right. That felt
Agreed.
Big time. I'm just concerned that the intensity that Illinois can bring, the minutes Garza has had to log collectively since Jack Nunge went out, Jack Nunge not being there to come in and play some decent defense against Kofi Coburn, and Iowa's relative inability to match up with the athleticism on the perimeter to Illinois, I believe the Hawkeyes have a buzzsaw awaiting them tomorrow. And if
All
Joe
right.
can't, if Joe can't go, if Joe's even on the fence, sit him down. Because guess what? Iowa won't have to play a team like Illinois until the Elite Eight in the NCAA tournament. Iowa is a 2 seed. Yeah, if they beat Illinois, and they'll still try to beat Illinois, if they beat Illinois and then beat Michigan, they could potentially sneak into a 1 seed. But I don't even know that they would. Don't even know that they would. So, anyhow, that's what I think.
There's, you know, I think, I can't remember. I think it was Hassel. He was talking to one of the CBS Sportsline basketball guys and asked him about what's really at stake for Iowa in the Big Ten tournament, and the guy said nothing really. I think tonight was a big deal. I think where they go from here, it's debatable, but I think that first loss to Illinois was kind of bitter, John. I think that was, 85-81. Robin said no CJF in that game. I can't remember for sure.
True. Yeah.
Garza foul trouble, and one of the other listeners said Iowa shot just 6 free throws. Probably not happening again. I kind of want to see this, and you know what? Iowa is Morpheus and the Matrix right now. It's come on, they're come on. They want to play. Yeah. They don't have to back down from anybody. This team, it sounds like J-Bo. Sounds like steam's coming out of his ears a bit.
Yeah, it does.
These guys are working out. They're cracking their necks and getting after it. I'm good with all this.
Right.
Don't back down from anybody. See what happens tomorrow.
Right. For those of you that are watching, and for those of you that are listening, I'll talk through it. This is Joe Lunardi's most recent update, 11:59 p.m. Eastern time, Iowa is still the second highest rated 2 seed in Lunardi's numbers. This is the S curve. It just kind of snakes from right to left. And Iowa can't be in Michigan's, if Michigan's the 1 seed, Illinois is the 4th 1 seed right now. Iowa can't be in Michigan's bracket. Iowa would be in Baylor's bracket. Ohio State also can't be in Illinois or Michigan's bracket. So Ohio State would be in Gonzaga's bracket, with Oklahoma State going to Michigan's bracket and Alabama going to Illinois' bracket. But look at your Oklahoma State Cowboys there, Mark. They're up to the 2 line all of a sudden since you prophesized over them.
I just like Cade Cunningham. I think he's just fun to watch. I think that team, I love the flow of that team. I love the way they play. Dan McCall, they're on a mission from God. I think that's a good way to put it for the Hawkeyes. I mean, they're it's night. They're wearing sunglasses. They got a half a tank of gas, and Chicago's like 300 miles away.
Hit it.
They're focused. I like it.
Yeah, they are. They're very focused. Hawkeyes and Harleys says, how will this season affect Iowa's recruiting ability in the next couple of years? So the class, and they could pick some people up this spring. Mark alluded to that in our Sunday podcast, that, if there's some big men out there that maybe want to come play in a program that gets up and down and runs and actually does some pretty good things with big men, that Iowa now has that to show with Luka Garza, Iowa's going to have some openings. And, Peyton Sanford, the 6'7" wing / guard from Waukee. I think he's a little bit taller version of Joe Wieskamp, probably not as good dribble drive ability as Joe had coming out of high school, but Sanford may be a better shooter coming out of high school than Wieskamp was. So guys shoot about 50% from threes all year. He's a state champion at Waukee, a loaded Waukee team. Darren DeVries is on that. He's going to Drake, go figure. And then Peyton's brother might be better than Peyton at the same age. And then they have a 5-star prospect who's a class of 23. His first name's Omaha. Can't remember his last name, but this is a guy that everybody's going to be.
Bill?
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
So he held a recruiting year for Waukee.
Heck of a team. Heck of a team. It's the best. It's probably the most stacked Iowa high school basketball team with prospects on it since that Ames team that had Harrison Barnes and McDermott.
I'm glad you went to that one. That's the first one that popped into my mind.
I don't know what other one there is. I mean, those two are on some pretty elite ground. Scrolling through here, I'm going to scroll to the bottom now. I've been going from the oldest to the first, but now I think I'm catching up. Blues Brothers references, everybody loves that. I think we're kind of hitting the end.
I did bring up in the post today about getting to the Sweet 16 and then reopening McCaffrey's deal.
Yeah.
I don't know what you'd pay him, but I do think I think there's a maturity now. I think there's if he MFs an official again, who cares?
Right.
There's obviously a limit. No machetes, no cleavers, no. You can't do it every night. But if that's your biggest knock, I mean, that's what's holding you back from maybe another extending and making it. I don't want to say a lifetime contract. I blank on how old McCaffrey is. Is he 60?
Oh yeah, he's getting close. If he's not,
okay. So he's got 2 kids on the team.
He's got a younger son, Jack, that people think is better. Fran's 61 years old.
Okay, Jack. You want the little brother. Look at Jordan Bland, you always want the little brother. So I think I kind of maybe I shouldn't bring it up here, but I kind of think Sweet 16 opens the deal, and I think you kind of got to do it. And I think there's an opportunity to strike an accord.
Do we have an accord?
McCaffrey then, I don't want to say, I hate to use the word lifetime contract because I think I've used that 6 times with Ferentz.
Right.
And I totally admit that. but I think there's a lot on the table here for McCaffrey. I think he was an out of region coach, John. I mean, he was a Philly Eastern guy, and coming to the Midwest, I think all of that is burned off. I think that his family enjoys Iowa City. The team's winning. Things are set up the way he wants. He can tell Gary Barta pretty much what he wants, and right. Barta will do it. I think if I put the bar at Sweet 16, but doesn't mean I'm right. I mean, you guys might look at me and hey, 11 years, come on,
right.
One Sweet 16, 11 years, come on. Yeah, you're right. But it's been since 1999 since I was last one. So
yeah,
I maybe that's an old sports writer sort of trope that I can't shake, but I think you do open the deal.
Yeah, I actually have a pretty strong opinion on that topic, and I'm going to tell you what it is in 30 seconds. I'm hungry for some pizza.
There you go.
And Fong's Pizza, also a sponsor of Hawkeye Podcast.
Craving the one and only Fong's Pizza? We thought so. Fong's Pizza in Cedar Rapids now delivers. Order direct delivery or curbside pickup from Fong's Pizza by calling 320-9992. All of your Fong's favorites and a Fong's spin on the classics, from their mega pepperoni to the Iowan and street taco. Delivery, takeout, carside to go. Call 320-9992. Fong's Pizza, Nubo District, downtown Cedar Rapids.
Thanks to Fong's. Also, thanks to Heartland Flagpoles and Flags. Website is heartlandflags.com. Hey, 5% off your first purchase right there if you go to heartlandflags.com. Okay, I think, Mark, I read your McCaffrey article that I was really interested in. I hadn't been considering it. And if they make it to the Sweet 16, and maybe they have to do something like that before you can open up the contract thing, because they did the last one under the cover of darkness that got them a lot of trouble. Yes. Another plane in traffic, unforced error from Gary Barta that just blew up in his face.
That was a. I was going to say a bad word, but we just had our sponsors. It was cheesy.
Yeah, it was.
I'll put it that way.
So I think that Fran McCaffrey, from my personal opinion, I want to see Fran at Iowa another 10 years if he wants to stay. There have been times, and I've talked about this, that I haven't cared for his sideline antics, but those have been greatly muted the last couple of years. They just have. And I love the style of play that Iowa plays at. I feel that it's my birthright from what I grew up with watching Iowa basketball. And if they can mix in a little defense, and we've talked about next year's team, it's going to be a better defensive team probably than this year's team. If they can run, mix in the D, and play that type of offense, I want to see Fran here another decade. So I'm all for it.
We agree. I think you have to. And that, when I first started covering Iowa basketball, this was mid '90s for the Telegraph Herald, and they actually sent me to the very first Big Ten tournament. This was around the time that Tom Davis was really starting to lose footing with Bob Bowlesby. Mm-hmm. Davis, I think, in the first Big Ten, maybe the first or second one, his contract was expiring, and that was really sort of the number one headline. Iowa went in and I saw Ricky Davis dunk from half court not from half court, but from like the free throw line against Northwestern in a all empty, basically, United Center. And man, it still was fun to watch Ricky Davis do that, but it was not a great circumstance.
Right.
So Davis is going through some stuff. I think this is the time of year where, it's fair to kind of, for this kind of a talk show mode, to be able to talk about something like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's fun. It's really fun. And I'm sitting here looking at the numbers hovering still. We've been on the air now for an hour and 10 minutes. And we've had well over 200 people with us at various points. And we've had a couple hundred comments, people wanting to interact. And what a great fun format this is. I know
Absolutely.
we both really, really enjoy it. And it's a lot of fun. And you had you had this one up here from Dave Laughlin a second ago, the Marc Morehouse Cheese Dickory. And I know that you and Scott had joked at times about potentially doing the T-shirts. Did you ever do those?
I did, and I think I'm down to one. I did Cheese Dickory T-shirts, and there was a beer, Thew Brewing in Cedar Rapids. They did a Cheese Dickory beer, a nice little cream ale. You could drink about 14 of them and not feel them really, because they're not very. It was a beer flavored beer that not very heavy, and
right,
kind of like Cheese Dickory. You got to call it. It's not very heavy. It's just enough to piss you off and make you.
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking we may have to have like a, for some of these analogies or ideas that you come up with on the fly, we might have to have a little T-shirt merch store. For people wanting to have some access to those. Yeah,
we get these hats, the black and white,
the hats is it.
Hat going, and then the meerkats on the hoodie. We got to do that.
I agree.
Meerkats with googly eyes. Who doesn't laugh at that?
I agree. I know. I agree with you. And you're established. I have over 100 hats. I hope you have a lot of them too, because you have set a pace here. There's an expectation that what hat is Marc going to be bringing tonight?
I don't have very many.
Do you have a babushka?
No, I don't. Oh, I have like one of those shearling things with a flappy ear one.
That's what I'm thinking.
I definitely have one of those. And if this basement gets any colder, I'm going to need it.
Well, I think that's it as far as I have in my head. If you have any other parting shots, by all means, go ahead.
I would just say, hey, this was a lot of fun, and Twitter was a lot of fun with y'all tonight, and enjoy this. It's been a long time since Iowa has been in this situation. Enjoy it. And hey, I hope Katie Joe comes back to Twitter. I saw that tonight, and that was a little depressing. She a nice, fun, interesting person on Twitter. She's my favorite reality TV show, and she canceled herself after taking a bunch of guff for saying she got her vaccine shot. So, hey, Katie, please come back. I'm gonna miss you.
Yeah, I enjoy her tweets as well, and I missed.
She's real. One of those real people out there living life.
Yeah,
I love that stuff.
Yeah, Twitter. Twitter can be Twitter.
You gotta have your diamond skin to get through it some days.
You definitely do. And everybody's going to be different. tomorrow with the Iowa-Illinois game.
Right.
I am going to sit back, and I'm going to be sitting here in my office just like this, put my feet up on the desk, and I'm going to just be sitting there with my phone, maybe tweet here and there, and I'm going to enjoy it. I don't have super high expectations. Of course, your expectations are your own. Iowa made it to Saturday of the Big Ten tournament for the first time since 2006. Iowa is going to get their name called on Selection Sunday as a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament for just the second time in program history. The other time they were a 2 seed was 86-87 season. And we are going to be able to bask in the glow of a tournament and expectations for a full week. We're going to bathe in it. I'm just going to enjoy tomorrow. And if Iowa beats Illinois, boy, you know I'm going to love it. And we'll be here to talk about it, whether they do or they don't. But have some fun tomorrow. Sit back and enjoy it. It's kind of like house money as far as I'm concerned right now. When you got a 2 seed, hay in the barn, you're playing with house money. So.
Absolutely. And don't say NIT. Don't say NIT, Dan. No NIT words.
No.
Bad buzz. Bad buzz.
No. All right. For Marc, thank you very much, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.